And we're here today to talk about positioning yourself for now and the future. And so as Jillian said, I am Donna Body. My company is Delos Incorporated, and we're based in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, home right now of the Perkiomen Creek, which had a record flood stage, all-time record last night. So the roads and everything were a little bit of a mess too. And what we do is we make the web work for you. So we do websites and digital marketing, and I like to speak to business owners and entrepreneurs and people who do marketing to really help them grow their businesses online. Because what's the point of a business being online if it's not actually to try and grow your business? And today, more than ever, it's important to be online, right? One of the things that I've been saying to people is that the future is banging down our door right now. So many things we've talked about over the years. You know, it's important to have a good online presence. It's important to make sure that you're accessible on a mobile phone, that you make things easy for people to get information. And with the situation we're in right now with COVID, that is now. A lot of my customers and clients and stuff have said, you know, we'll get to that in the future. We're busy right now. We'll work on that. That's on our list to do. And it's now really more important than ever to do it. I ask, are we over the shock yet? And it's more like, you know, are we ready to be done with all this? I know everyone is, and it's been a very difficult and changing time, but I think we have to look at what are the opportunities here for us as well. You know, it's time for change is happening a lot faster than we want, but it's really up to us to decide what we do about it. And so what I want to talk to you about today is some things that I think generally businesses should be doing with their marketing in this uncertain time. Everything is changing so rapidly. It's really important that you communicate regularly and transparently with your customers. People are anxious. Your people don't really understand, you know, is this place open? What are they doing? How do I do it? So making sure that you get your information out there is really important. I think if you happen to have some time in your business where it is not super busy, taking the time to plan, what is it going to look like? How am I going to come out the other side of this better positioned? What is it that I should be doing? Take this time to create content that is relevant to people. And then also, it's a great time to experiment. When we have like national broadcasters broadcasting from their closets and stuff, everybody is getting a pass right now because things are changing all over the place for everyone. So I think it's going to be really important to look at this as an opportunity to try out some things. You'll be forgiven if they're not 100% working right, because everyone is trying to come up with brand new ways of doing stuff. So to that end, I want to really talk today about 7 steps that you can use to save you time and get better results. A lot of getting results with digital marketing is really related to good planning and execution of that plan, knowing what you want to do and how you're going to do it, and then implementing that. So the first tip that I have that I see a lot of businesses struggling with is to coordinate your efforts. Too often people think about their website, their email lists, their different social media platforms as separate buckets. And what am I going to do on this one? What am I going to do here? And so what I always recommend to people is make your website the center of your strategy. And the reason you're doing that is that you own and control the content 100% on that. On Instagram, it's kind of up to Instagram to decide what they're going to show and how they're going to do it. You want to use the social media channels to output, you know, to expand your reach, but you want to make sure that your core messages are where you own it and control the content, and then you can repeat that. Another reason to do that is that the information on your website is available over a longer period of time. I don't know if anyone's tried to find a post that was on Facebook like a week ago. It's almost impossible to do that. But yet you have core messages and information that is relevant to people today and next week and 4 months from now and 6 months from now. Where is the home for that? And that should be your website. Social media is increasingly an advertising platform, and it can be a good one. It's still possible to build organic engagement there. And especially now, email and social media, people are spending tons of time online. So it's not a bad thing if somebody sees like the same message and information on your website, on an email that you send them, and also in a social media post. Repetition is how we start to recognize things. Somebody had told me once about radio advertising, for example. You would never order one 30-second spot, that it takes people like 7 or 8 times to hear something before it actually starts to register. So having a coordinated approach and putting the same content across all of your channels is a much better way than sitting there and going, what am I going to do on my newsletter this month, without thinking through the entire strategy. So that's my first tip. My second tip is to really know what your goals are and who you're trying to talk to. We have so much information coming at us all the time that we tune out anything that's not really relevant to what we're doing. So knowing your goals, what do you want to do? Are you trying to create awareness? Are you trying to create know, like, and trust, being seen maybe as the expert in something? Are you trying to do customer service? Do you want people to take an action? I want them to call me on the phone. I want them to fill out a quote form. I want them to buy my product right now because it's available for sale on the website and it's a quick transaction. Decide what your goals are. And it's okay to have multiple goals too, but it's important that you plan out your content and your social media and your marketing around getting to the goals you want to achieve. And so for social media, and in particular, we think about there are a couple different types of traffic that you can get. You can get paid traffic and you can get earned traffic. And this is true for like Google ad web search traffic as well, right? You can have ads, or you can have organic search that's very high. And people will come to your site, or people will see and like or comment on your social media post. The key though is, how do you convert that traffic into owned traffic? And what do we mean by owned traffic? By owned traffic, what we're really talking about is people you can contact directly. And typically that means their email address. Because if social media changes the rules, or you know, for example, if you have someone that liked a post and made some great comments on Facebook, you don't really have another good way to directly contact them and to be sure that they're going to reach out to you. It might be a messenger thing, and that is effective for a number of organizations as well, but typically it means that you want to be able to get their email, their phone number, something where you can contact them when you want to contact them and understand that it's going to get through. And then who is it you're trying to talk to? The answer is not everyone. Be really specific about who is the right fit for your product or service. What's important to them? What are their problems that you're solving? What are their values? What is the style that they like? All of those things. The more you can narrow down and have a good handle on who you're trying to reach, the more likely you are going to create relevant messages to those people that they will respond to. And then you need to focus on the right platforms. So which ones are they? I'd already talked about making the website the center of your strategy, because that's something that you own and control. And that wheel I showed a while back, a lot of those social media platforms have changed over the years, but the website is still there. Email marketing is another thing that everybody should be building a list of people they can contact when they want to, and to have a regular communication with. Particularly during this time of the pandemic, email engagement rates have increased because people are spending so much time online. It is still, even prior to the pandemic, the best return on your investment compared to social media. So people still prefer that businesses contact them through email, even some of the younger demographics and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And then I'm putting YouTube on here because video is so important today. Everything that people are doing, it relates to seeing and hearing and being able to communicate. Because we can't do as much in person, being able to build those relationships with video is important. It lets people get to know you. YouTube can be a place to house it. You can also then take that same video, upload it to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, whatever your appropriate platforms are. But one of the things I want you to think about too is that although Google is the #1 search engine by far, the #2 search engine is YouTube, which also happens to be owned by Google. So a lot of people go first to YouTube to search for an answer to their problems or questions, or when trying to evaluate products and things like that. So I think that today, if you're not doing video, this is the perfect time to start doing that. So which of the social platforms should you be on? Well, what you want to do is, again, go back to that. Who is the audience you're trying to talk to, and where are they spending their time on social media? And that's where you should concentrate. It's not really possible to be like on all of these different platforms well at one time if you're not a really big brand. So focus. Is your audience on Facebook? Is it on Twitter? Some of the tech people, might be more on Twitter, some customer service types things. Is it Instagram? Is your stuff visual? Pinterest is another very visual one. Pinterest is very aspirational, people looking for ideas. So does your product or service fit in with that? It's probably a good fit there. Are you strictly B2B and a professional thing? Then you should probably just, take a look at focusing on LinkedIn for your information there. But pick something and where your audience is and go from there. The other thing you want to do on social media is create what I like to call a social mix. We have to remember that social media is called social for a reason. People don't go there to be sold to. So if your social media platform consists of, oh, here's our special today, this is what we have, here's our thing, people are going to tune you out in a heartbeat. You need to make a mix of content. And we like to use what we call the 80-20 rule. 80% interesting, informative, useful, and entertaining content, and 20% would be promotion. So you still have to get your promotional message out there, but you really need to just be providing information and other entertaining or informative stuff. So what is in a social media mix? So we're going to say that the most important messaging that you have should go on your website too. And then you would supplement that with things which are in social or in email only. I'll give you an example of something like, it's important to recognize holidays. If you had something going on for 4th of July, happy 4th of July and stuff, you probably wouldn't put that on your website because it's not a really core message of what you're doing. But if you have like a really important article, I've seen people do this occasionally, you know, they write an email with some really wonderful content. It's interesting, it's useful to their audience and stuff. And I'm like, well, how come that's not on your website too? Because once people delete that email, it's gone, but it's still relevant a year from now. So somebody could find it on the website later. So put the most important messaging and your original content on your website and supplement with things which are only on social and email. So let's talk a lot about like what would be in the mix, right? So we're talking about your original content, and that original content is typically the stuff that's going to be on your website. So whether that's a blog post, a video you do, again, you put a video on YouTube, you should also embed it in your website. You can upload it to social as well. Repurposing is really important to save you time and to get better results. It could be your podcast, it could be your product information. Then you'll supplement that with like repeating features. Make it easy for yourself. Think about what types of repeating content makes sense for you to do. Is it a different type of tip, right? So we have some people in the travel industry who do Travel Tip Tuesday, or, you know, is it a quote that you can kind of put in now and then, or case studies, or spotlight on a customer. You know, every month we're going to spotlight a different customer and how they're using our product, something like that. When you come up with these repeating features and formats, then we can, you know, you can kind of come up with some templates, and you know what you're doing and what you're planning for, and it makes it easier to create the content and save time. And then people come to expect that and look for that from you as well. You can do curated content too. It's not necessarily necessary to always put your own stuff out there. So there's something called an RSS reader, which lets you find sources. Otherwise, you may have industry sources, and you want to give credit to those people that you share their information from as well. So you wouldn't necessarily share like a competitor's post in your area, but there may be some industry things or just news articles or good tips and things like that. I have a weekly newsletter I call Tech News Tuesday, and we find things that are happening in the digital marketing industry that we think our audience should know about. So we actually are curating the thousands of articles out there, and we go, okay, look, here's a new Instagram feature that you should know about. This week we did something on how you get set up on Instagram shopping, for example. That's not our content, but it is our take on why it is important that we think you should know about it, and we're sharing it with you. Mutual sharing is another good thing. Are there people who complement what you do, where you can share their stuff and they can share your stuff, where your audiences may overlap, but you're not really direct competitors? You know, it works really well. Also for like downtowns, like locally, physically related businesses who can share on things like that as well. So it's good to, you know, get your word out, give credit to those other people, give a shout out to that. It's also something that I've seen a lot of businesses do successfully, is also promote the nonprofits and the causes that they support. So by, you know, saying, hey, you know, we're a food drop-off place for this pantry, or, you know, whatever you might be doing, you're promoting the nonprofit, but you're also getting the word out about you and your values. Seasonal and topical items are, you know, the holiday stuff, news items, you know, things like in normal times, or what I'm calling the before times, I think, you know, this time of year, you'd be all about the back to school stuff, or what are you going to do on summer, or vacation planning, things like that. So there are definitely seasonal and topical items that should go into your social mix. If you're an accountant, reminding people towards the end of the year, here's important things about your taxes that you should be doing. You know, those are going to be repeating year to year as well. So I got all these ideas. I know what the mix is. How do I actually implement this? Well, you want to use what we call an editorial calendar. You want to be able to plan out your content. For example, and this is, again, everybody's is going to be different, but this might be a sample mix and frequency of what something looks like. I'm going to blog 2 times a month. Every week, I'm going to send out a short email. Email really works, but not long newsletters. They have to be very snack-sized things because most people read their email on a phone. So once a week, I'm going to send a quick email. I'm going to update my Google My Business listing a couple times a month because now Google lets us put posts and events and COVID-19 updates and things like that directly on our Google search information. And so that's something you should be taking advantage of. I'm going to do Facebook 3 times a week and Instagram 3 times a week. So that might be a kind of a plan that should get calendared out for a small business. So then what should my social media mix look like? Well, I might, if I'm going to promote those 2 blogs that I just did, and maybe I'm going to do 3 tips and 3 curated articles, other things, 1 call to action, maybe I'm going to do 1 mutual share, and maybe there's 2 seasonal stuff. So again, every month is not necessarily going to be exactly like this, but it gives you something to plan with and figure out what makes sense. So your platforms, your frequency, and your mix is going to vary. It's okay to experiment with this. The important thing is you just need to start. You need to start thinking about it and you need to start doing it. So then you want to get it on a calendar. So this is an example, just using a spreadsheet here where, we've taken a week of things. And in this example, we happen to color code the different categories. That's a blog, that's an event, something like that. And then for the way this calendar is being done, it gets a strike through it once it's been scheduled. So having a calendar and having it mapped out and taking the time to plan it versus time to execute is a huge time saver. And then repurpose on this calendar. So the example I'm using here is let's say you have a blog post on the top 10 beach vacations. You can make a 10-slide video of that too. It can sit in the blog post. It can also be separate on YouTube. It can also be uploaded separately to social. You could have 10 different social posts highlighting each one over time. You can create polls for your audience comparing the beaches. You can send an email to your list highlighting that this content exists. And then maybe because the top 10 doesn't change daily, it's something you can reuse or repost again 6 months from now or a year from now. So think about those opportunities for especially the important content that you create, that how am I going to reuse it again and again over time, and how am I going to tweak the formats to have that so that I'm getting a lot of different mileage out of the same content that I'm creating. And then you want to batch the content creation. Because as I mentioned or alluded to a minute ago, the process of planning and thinking about what you're going to do to fit into your goals and what's right for the audience and stuff is actually save a lot of time when you separate that process out from the actual implementation and creating the content. So when you batch creating it, you can do it a couple of different ways. Again, create that calendar out so that you have the whole month or even the whole quarter. We have a couple clients that we actually do the whole year for ahead of time. And, having things change, you have to keep in mind, especially with the uncertainty of today, you have to, be willing to change things up as circumstances allow. But having that plan, then you can, let's say I have a plan for the month and I have a weekly email. I mentioned my Tech News Tuesday thing that we do. We think about what are we have 5 weeks coming up in the next month. What are the 5 topics that we're going to share? And so we kind of get all that done ahead of time. And then you can actually batch the creation of them. So, okay, so now I'm going to write all 5 of those emails at once. Another way, in addition to batching, like blocking a series of time off, like, okay, I'm going to schedule all my social media posts for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to take an hour every other Monday and do that, and I'll be 2 weeks ahead of time. But another way to do it is to integrate the social as part of your process. So for example, if you're someone who does projects for a client, and maybe after every project that you do, there should be a review of the project or a case study. Or, you know, I'm using an example here, every new trip gets a review. Let's just say that you're a travel agent and your agents travel all around. If part of their trip is to make like a trip report, and that is content that gets scheduled in and posted, it will happen automatically because it's part of the process. I hope that's clear. And then use scheduling tools. So it's important to not set it and forget it, but you want to use scheduling tools to be able to, you know, if I've done these 5 emails ahead, my email software lets me schedule that they're going to go out each of these weeks. If I need to unschedule them, that's fine, but it's there. We had a power failure yesterday, but there was social media already scheduled for the week, so I didn't have to worry about scrambling like, oh, we had an email that needed to go out or this needed to happen. The stuff was all scheduled ahead of time, and it just makes it a lot simpler for your life. Now, if you schedule, doesn't mean that you have to forget completely about social media. You want to monitor your mentions and your messages. And it's also good to respond to people and to like and share stuff on occasion. But that should, you know, only take you a few minutes here and there to do that. And if there's a situation where something is very busy and you didn't get around to it, at least you're not missing promotion of an event, for example. That's already scheduled out. The big stuff is there. So a couple different scheduling tools that I think, you know, from the simplest point of view and the free point of view, excuse me, is Facebook has something now called Creator Studio. And from within Creator Studio, if you've linked your Facebook and Instagram accounts, you can schedule both Facebook and Instagram posts. Buffer Publish is another one that we use. It's good for Twitter and LinkedIn and also Facebook and Instagram. And one we've been experimenting with and looking at is, it's called Promo Republic. It's almost a combination of what Buffer does on scheduling, plus what Canva does on creating your posts. Plus they actually have a bunch of ready-made posts that you can just edit for holidays and different things like that. So there's a lot of different tools out there. So I have presented like a lot of information and I've talked really fast on there, but my bottom line to all this stuff is that, you know, if you have time right now, spend some time now to plan and get organized on how you are going to grow your business. You are going to save time later, and you're going to get better results by understanding what these, you know, planning out, knowing who you're talking to, what you want them to do. We have to lead people. We have to tell people. We can't let them figure out that, oh, well, they should call me for X, Y, and Z if I don't tell them that this X, Y, and Z is the problem we solve, and here's how we do it, and you need to contact me. So I just want to say, you know, to the future, come on in, we're open, we're looking forward to the future, and we're going to pivot however we need to pivot today. And I understand it's difficult, and I understand there's days where it just feels really hopeless and terrible for many small business owners, but we have to choose our attitude, and we have to look for where there are opportunities in this to change what we're doing, communicate better on where we're going, and really continue building those relationships with our customers. And we have to build those relationships now online. And I want you to think about what you're doing with social media and with your email and with your website as this is how I'm building relationships with my customers and prospective customers. So that's what I have for you today, and I'm happy to take questions.
Hey, Donna, thanks. That was great. We do have some questions that came through. So first question, are there any tips or best practices on how to get some of those engaged social media users to convert to own traffic?
Okay, so you can link them to a website page where you have a sign up. You can offer people something to sign up for you for social. You can encourage, direct messaging. This is where you would have some call to actions in certain social media posts on doing this. This kind of thing changes over time. For a while, contests were really important, but some of the things about the contests that are a little bit more difficult is, are you actually getting the right people? It's so important that you don't necessarily want own traffic of 1,000 people if only 5 of them are really your right customer. It's much better to have 50 of the right customer than 1,000 of irrelevant people who are never going to buy from you to begin with. So what can you do? Some people are offering like Facebook groups and stuff and asking for an email as part of signing up for that. So if you have like a community like that, that's another way to do it. Groups seem to be a very popular way of getting people who are interested in a certain area. And if you can facilitate that group, that might be a way to do it too.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Scrolling through here. Will mutual sharing blog content ping you by Google for duplicate content? Are there any best practices for mutual sharing with a partner? For instance, is it fine to reshare a blog post word for word?
So I would not recommend the mutual sharing be done on your website. But in social media, by pointing to their website or even linking to it, in theirs, and then having somebody link to yours from there. But republishing the same content word for word is not a good practice to do.
Thank you. All right, and the last question for now is, someone said that their business creates a blog post once a week and posts on social media every day. Is it possible to post content too much?
People consume a lot of content. And so I guess my question to you is, are you getting results from that content? Is it the right kind of content? So publishing a blog post a week, but if you publish that same blog post every day on social media, that's probably too much, right? Is it different content that you're posting? And are you trying to get engagement as part of that process? So I think it depends on your business, and it depends on how much interesting, informative, and valuable content that you can have. Some people can post several times a day and get the engagement, right? There's not a right or wrong answer to that without knowing the industry and what you're trying to accomplish.
And I will say Donna's contact information is on this final slide here. You can definitely reach out to her as well. If there's any additional questions while we have Donna here, feel free to post that in the chat, either to me or to everyone. Hang out. What do you think, Donna? Another minute or two?
Yeah, I'm happy to hang out. Like I said, I was sort of kind of wanted to get through all the content. I'm not sure on the technology and stuff. Like I say, this storm has been crazy the past day, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions that anyone has too.
Great. I'll go ahead and leave that chat open for a few more minutes. Got a couple thanks coming through. Very useful presentation. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, I think, you know, it's a really tough time right now, Jillian, and it's tough for everyone. And
Yeah.
you know, there's definitely like two different worlds too, right? Like some people who just still have their corporate job, everything's the same and nothing has changed for them. And then, you know, then there's restaurant owners and bar owners and gym owners and people in the entertainment space and the travel space.
I will say in the brick, we have seen a huge increase in traffic to our social media pages. So that's interesting.
Well, because you know what? People are looking for stuff to do too. They're looking for stuff to do and they're looking for stuff to do online. And that's why I say it is a perfect time to experiment. What do you want to, you know, what can you do? What can you come up with? You know, how can you do an event or something for people virtually, right? I mean, some people say, oh, people are sick of Zoom calls and this and that, but there's some really fun stuff out there happening too. You know, I mean, you've had like, you know, DJs who've now switched to Instagram and things like that. So people are looking for stuff to do and they're looking for information. And depending upon your audience, you know, you may actually have a much more receptive audience to what you're doing right now. I mean, think about people who provide homeschooling information, right? I'm sure they've seen a tremendous amount of increase in traffic, right? Or
Absolutely.
people are sitting around in their homes wondering what they're going to do. Like they're now, because they haven't been home, they're now looking at, oh, we should replace this, or we need a new thing of this. And so look for the opportunities. They are out there. It's just, you know, it just takes looking beyond the current thing. And I just don't know that things are going to go back the way they were. It was important before, but it's even more important now that what you do in real life, you present to people in an online format so that they get to know, like, and trust you there.
Definitely. All right, we'll give it one more minute, get your final questions in, and then I guess we'll have to let Donna go.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thank you so much, Donna. Donna's one of our best brick friends. She's always presenting great information. It's always different every time. So I hope we'll have her back again in the future. I think that brick will be digital for at least the end of the year. So look for more events on our website, freelibrary.org/business. You can sign up for our newsletter right there, and that's how you will get the most up-to-date information on programs like this. Well, thank you, Donna. It was a pleasure to see you. I hope your power is working when you get home. Thanks for being awesome and doing this presentation despite all of that.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.